Welcome to the Success Finder podcast, sponsored by the Success Finder. Why? Because I can. And we're going to be changing some things up on here. The Mastermind Effect. We're not going away from that. But what I realized, there could be a disconnect between what we've got with those that we're interviewing, these amazing coaches, result leaders, tacticians, and what we're building with the Success Finder. I wanted to make it, let's be honest, more intimate. There's a few things that I've got on my plate right now, and I realized that if I don't find a way to give on something or to get rid of something, then I wasn't going to be able to continue the podcast in the fashion of what I saw the future it was. So we're going to be moving to more solo shows. What's going on during the week with what we're building with Success Finder, different companies that either I've built or I'm a part of, and just what's going on in some daily activities. I was on a walk with my wife, and I was listening to something before we went on this walk from Dr. Jeff Spencer, and it spurred some thoughts on what I wanted to talk about today. And I think it's language. I know, because we're going to talk about language and the language that we use. And I told her, I said, hey, we've got, different people in our lives. We've got multiple Dans, multiple Jeffs. I think only one Nick. And then, just other people that I see around there. And over the last couple of years, what I've noticed is there is a common language. It's almost like a grid or I don't want to say a thesaurus. What is it when you have something and it says this means this? Whatever it is, figure it out, put it in the notes, and we'll go from there. But a common language. So when I need to know what someone is saying, I can go back to that grid, that line that says, hey, this is what this means. And I started realizing that the different people in my life that I've partnered with or that I'm learning from and that I'm around, they're using common languages. And here's the cool thing. It took me a couple years to really kind of get this. But what it allowed me to do is when I hear them talking completely different domains, and a domain, just for instance, could be a marketing, when I'm looking at marketing stuff, a domain could be cryptocurrency when I'm looking at cryptocurrency. A domain could just be how I run my daily life. So different domains. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the word domain. And so they all live in different domains: finance, intellectual property, so on and so forth. But I notice a common thread, a common theme. And at this point, I don't know who came up with some of these languages, but they alter them to how it pertains to them and the people that they're talking with, talking to, however you want to look at that. And I'm like, geez, this is why it's making more sense. This is why life is making more sense. And so here's my point that I want to get to. So I'm not just rambling on. When I see the coaching arena, when I see the mentor, the tacticians, very few corpsmen out there. One that I know of, I can say, and I work with him, Dr. Jeff Spencer. But when I sit there and I see other people in what we're building, especially with the Success Finder, I see that they aren't using a common language. Why is this important? If someone says champion mindset versus human mindset, I know what we're talking about there and how we're constantly that they're constantly fighting between each other no matter what. If someone sits there and says allegiance capital, I know what that means. And we can get into these in later shows, okay? I'm not going to go into the exact definitions of some of this. But having a common language in your group, in your tribe, in your community, wherever it sits, and with what we're going to be releasing next year on the Success Finder, you'd be foolish. You'd be silly not to want to be a part of it. But when I see a common language, we can have a conversation, and you don't have to explain when you're talking to me about how I need to build allegiance capital or build up my bank internally with my family. You don't have to explain it to me. So think of it this way. You have a group and you say jump. They say how high. You say hey. They say ho. Now I know, okay, those kind of sound silly, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to come across to you. If you create a common language, you don't have to re-explain yourself over and over and over again. And here's the cool thing is you're only one person that's listening to this. And then there's multiple people that are listening, beyond that ripple effect. But if someone comes into your group, whether they've been invited, whether they've paid, whatever it is, and you say allegiance capital, you say jump, you say, hey, your audience, the people part of that, know how to respond. And you're not always having to re-explain yourself to that new member, to that new individual. You're able to rely upon the tier of people that have been around to help that new person be orientated into what you're talking about. A grid, a guide. I'm really stuck on why I can't think of what I am trying to equate. This word equals this, whatever it is. Someone please message me on that. What I'm really trying to get across. So think of a common language. Now, I'll give someone Michel Faber, and this is just for instance on there. Michel Faber, everyone that is part of his group has the same emoji that they put back. Now, I'm not saying that that's silly, but Michel says X, and if you look at it, 70, 80, 90%, whatever it is, the same colored emojis come back. They have a common language. So how can we expedite a new person coming into your world that either paid to play or is just in there into the language so that it doesn't take 2 years to indoctrinate them into speaking what the group is saying? So they know when you throw up that signal, that bat signal, that success signal, whatever it is, without having to ask, they know what they're supposed to do on the other side. Languages, there's a lot of them out there. Why try to confuse ourselves and make it more difficult than it already is? Teach the people around you the language, whatever it is. It could be an emoji, could be a word, could be a signal, whatever it is, so they know what to do next. And then new people coming in, those people at the tier that have been there, they help educate and bring them and rise them. Because then, if all the ships are pointing in the same direction, the power of the momentum, can't even say the word today, moving forward is exponential. This is Brandon Straza, host of the Success Finder podcast. And yes, it was the Mastermind Effect. And people told me, hey, go. You know what? You should just start one anew for all these different reasons. And I realized, you know what? We've already got the audience that we want. We want to continue to grow this audience. But this is what's going to be about going forward. Things pop up. This was on my walk with my wife. Try not to screw those words up again. And we'll see you on the next episode.